Hello, everyone. This is Jeremy Lee here. Hope you're all doing well this evening. This is me giving you my initial post to Module 4. I cannot believe we're already coming toward the end of a very great semester. But wow, it came really fast. So without further ado, I'll say my bit and be out of your way. I definitely enjoyed all the readings and found enlightenment in various topics in the reading. I'm going to kind of highlight some of the areas I um, really enjoyed reading more of and kind of see how they pertain to higher education. So that's what I really plan to do. So without further ado, let's do that. Okay, so this is the third portion now, power, privilege, and marginalization. It also discusses ability, and I'm assuming SES stands for social economic status. Just a random guess there, but without further ado, um, I really kind of jumped in early and looked at. I overall skimmed the entire text and kind of found areas of interest in all of the text. So I know it was a lot to kind of take in. So I kind of looked a little bit of everything, and I really enjoyed, first of all, the lessons about what happened with the transgender community. I think early on, I have learned a little bit about the LGB, but I've never actually gotten a lot of experience with the transgender community and the kind of things they've dealt with. And so initially, I've always kind of like I've embraced people who are going through a transitioning process. Sexually, I've also kind of embraced people who may not be able to afford a full-blown transition, but they are identifying as an opposite gender from what they may have been born with. And so I've called myself having to be more engaged in that kind of discussion and seeing how I really understand how it goes. And so the idea of actually learning that sex to him is more of a physical idea and gender is more of an internal perception. That was a very interesting kind of a correlation to me. I never thought about that before. To me, I guess I would be more of the privileged one in that case because I automatically associate my sex being a male with being gender also being a male as well. I act as if a masculine male, if you will, at times. So I think that too was I was kind of an understood thing. So I had to remind myself to kind of live through the lens of thinking of other people who may not be like me and see how that kind of relates to life. And I think it kind of applies to a lot of things that we read in these readings. It's kind of like making sure that we think about how people deal with the day-to-day things that we take for granted. I think that was kind of evident in that portion of reading as well, as it says that they go through struggles to define themselves. And I think that's something we have to remind ourselves in undergrad or in higher education. Out of my undergrad experiences, apparently my last year there was a transgender person on campus, and they kept it secret, never told us who it was, and it kind of bothered me because I would love to have more conversation with them. I did meet one young person who was actually transgender or was transitioning from a female to a male, and at the time he was very helpful and kind of get me to understand, his experiences and how he dealt with, transitioning and what that really meant. And also my fraternity reasons made a lot of strides in accepting people of transgender community as well. So we've had discussions there with them also, like with how they work, how they deal with daily lives in their brotherhood or just on campus or whatever have you. So I've definitely learned a lot about how they have found difficulty in defining themselves, and also how having that moment really brings them to having more pride in their sexuality, which of course goes back to some of the reasons we learned last year in student development theory about how, coming to your own and kind of learning about what you want and finding a community establishes some kind of pride in your sexuality. So all that always comes full circle to me. I really enjoy learning about that. So I definitely had no clue about what was going on historically with transgenders. The San Francisco Tenderloin community thing was really awesome to me to learn about. I think it's very impressive to hear of how the community was kind of established for those who were transgender to live there, and they faced so much oppression in so many different ways. And I think the government, the system, actually kind of let it be that way. And I think it always amazes me that this similarities that there are between different groups of oppressed people and how their struggles sound so similar. That wasn't very much different from some things I've learned about in my own culture. So it was very impressive to learn about that. I think civil unrest though is kind of needed because it helps you to kind of bring attention to an issue. I'm sure that it was an issue for quite a while, but when you had the arrest happen at this diner wherever they were at, I think that also kind of brought the attention because it brought it into the public's eye. And said we need to discuss what's going on here. It's no different from when the African Americans were going through the civil rights movement. Then you saw to see the media portray what's happening in the areas, or even to modern, more current days, we find things happening such as like Ferguson, Missouri, or things like that. We find students protesting issues. You find that when the media gets involved and we actually see the faces of those who are going through these bits of oppression, we start to become more engaged and more connected to them, and that's what's needed sometimes that connection happens. Also, something that's really caught my eye was the PISR movement, which kind of discussed like bathrooms and how that's an issue when it comes to certain people. And I know it's been a big issue recently across campuses. We've been discussing having people who have different issues with restrooms and and how they identify. And I never thought about that because I just go to the bathroom. And I thought that was very interesting to hear about. And I've heard some issues from amongst the community of kind of having those more gender neutral bathrooms and the conception that may come from that. But I think it's a really good idea to have those available for people because there is a need, because everyone identify as a male or female. We have to be ready to embrace that. Learning disabilities was something of interest to me as well. For those who do not know, I have a brother who is on the autistic spectrum. I also have two other aunts who have learning disabilities as well, so I'm very passionate about the topic. I think that it's a very needed thing to discuss. We're talking about this in legal issues in higher education, and so we've kind of talked about how making sure that campuses really make them feel comfortable and accessible to education. Obviously, each year those teachers will kind of run through a syllabus, and they'll say that there are, if you have a disability, please make sure you report it with the campus, and they will let the teacher know, and they'll make your accessibility able or make you more accessible. But unfortunately, I think two things happen. Students oftentimes feel that if they do that, they're copying out or receiving a less than genuine educational experience. And then they know that their educational experience is not going to be devalued because they have a disability. And secondly, I think that professors need to be willing to work with the students who have these disabilities, and student organizations need to be willing to work with people who have disabilities as well. I think a lot of times when I was an undergrad, we had a concert or something happen on campus. We always make sure that people who had disabilities could be welcoming and accepting and feel like they were a part of the experience. And that's something that was important because they're just as much of a student as anyone else is, and we have to make sure they're always feeling welcome to be there. So that was definitely interesting to me. The fragrance-free zones was kind of interesting to me because it reminded me of the time in undergrad where I was on a concert on a bus and this lady wore a really strong perfume for the entire week. It was awful. So that was a very interesting topic too, just for the record. I definitely got very passionate on the last couple of topics discussing students in high schools and grade schools who go through the judicial system very early. I did initially want to go into education for K through 12 education and social studies, so me coming here was actually a little bit of a detour initially, but a good one, of course. And I think that I definitely always had an issue when it comes to discussing students and how they so early get involved with the judicial system. I think, in earlier days in life, in my kindergarten years, in the early 90s, you had it where if someone got into a fight on campus, they talked about, had issues, they called the parents in, it was rectified, a couple of days suspension, you're good to go, you're fine. Nowadays, students get into fights, you're calling the police in, they're getting issues involved, and they're going to jail, they're getting all kinds of things that happen that really sets an early tone of what they are. And unfortunately, because of the way our system is set up in America, of course, with race, and just not also with race, just in general, we look and when we see records on students, we all automatically assume that there's something going wrong there. And so I think that was something very interesting to kind of learn about, was that, we have this happening, we need to kind of work with that and see how we can fix that, because I think it's kind of molded society that really puts emphasis on the judicial system and how they get students early involved in that, and they really never come out of that once they start. Why does that matter to me? Obviously, coming from a person of African American descent, a lot of our students who face it are of African American descent. At my high school, I recall all too well dealing with that, where our students in my high school kind of dealing with this kind of injustice where professors or teachers would instantly kind of associate with them, calling them to suspension and calling the cops and things like that. So I saw people from my race who were not able to go to college and be successful because of things that happened to them in those earlier days. And that is why it bothers me, because I feel like our higher ed system already kind of puts this blanket on you saying that if you already have faced the justice system before you even apply at the age of 18, you're not getting in. And I think we need to kind of make sure that we're cognizant of what students are going through and making sure we're always offering them a chance to go to college and kind of change their lives and change what's going on with them, because it's very important. So I see my time is very long now, so I'm going to cut off now and kind of let you all go from there. But those are some areas that really interested me on this topic. Thank you all. Take care. Bye.